G'day, I'm David G. Sheshnag Yoga Center. What on earth is Kundalini? Sheshnag.com. This video is about how to live with an awakened Kundalini. It's a very good question. I found it extremely difficult. When I regress into some victim psyche, I wish that my Kundalini was never awakened, but that's all just fantasy anyway, because the reality is I've done lifetimes of work to be able to awaken it, and then it happened spontaneously and then threw me off on this tangent to do with this perception of reality that's barely comprehensible in this culture, and most of the people that express it end up being medicated and put into a psych ward historically. Maybe it's a little bit different these days as the new spiritual unified paradigm encapsulates human psyche. The question is, how do you live in a healthy way? A friend of mine I was talking to, I said, Ash, see your life now. How would it be if you awakened your Kundalini? How would your life be any different? He said, good point, Omji. He said it probably wouldn't be. The only way that it would be more content is, oh wait, there it wouldn't be, because I've got a fantasy that everything would be cool after your Kundalini's awakened. I can personally tell you that it's not, because it speeds up your evolution as you become more and more perceptive on a subtle dimension. Then it becomes harder and harder to get validation externally from this culture. It's a very physically based culture, which is a mind-body culture without much spirit. The mind is utilized so the body experiences pleasure, or the mind experiences pleasure. That's what motivates both the mind and the body, trying to get pleasure. So in that, I found a lot of pain, dismay, turmoil, unacceptance, a lot of ostracism. Sure, it'd be cool if I could work full-time as a yoga teacher or anatomical philosopher that spruiks stuff to do with yogic physiology, psychology and philosophy, but at this point in time, it's only now that the word's being known. The full effect of a Kundalini awakening is rarely known, because the way I see it is most people writing the books and most people diagnosing people haven't actually experienced the unification or the unity of all being. Jivatma hasn't merged with Paramatma, so for them to comprehend what the Kundalini awakened person is going through, basically impossible. Okay, how do you get understood in that dynamic or that paradigm of the new understanding of a unified reality and the eternal existence of the soul, when the culture's so neck deep in dogma to do with religion, to do with endorsing separatism, to do with consumerism, competition, domination. Oh wow, when I go on about it, it makes me feel sick in the stomach. The things that I've found personally a lot better for myself is if I partially participate in the community and the economic domain rather than fully engulf myself, because energetically it's so contrary to the human framework and the peace of the unified existence that it really confines me and constricts me, and actually I've found that it's very hard for me as a person to cope in that. The other thing is, I found that upon reflection of my own sensitivity and my own tenderness, my own vulnerability, then if I accept that, then I can manage myself a lot better. The irony is, being a soft person, being open to the sensitivity of the subtle domains, because if you can't really perceive the subtle dimensions if you're not sensitive. So I can perceive the subtle dimensions, and I am very sensitive, but I have to harden up in the world when I function in a hierarchy which is dominated by the economy and power and, you know, like things like that. So maybe you don't know. How do I exist harmoniously? I respect myself, and then in that somehow I've got to step through some of those attributes that I embody to be powerful. To be powerful enough to respect myself, to be powerful enough to define boundaries, to be powerful enough to say, I'm unstoppable in my quest to fulfill my purpose. To be powerful enough to go, okay, I'm going to submit here. I'm going to show vulnerability. I'm going to show softness. I'm going to show my humanness, my frailness, my fragility. How am I going to do that? Somewhere in there, the conscious experience comes into it, and the conscious participation in that. That's how I'm going to do it. Being conscious of it. Being a willing participant. Knowing when to relinquish control. Knowing when to step into my heart. Knowing when it's safe to feel soft and vulnerable. Sounds like as much a fantasy as perfection and love sounds. In reality, it's a big task. So that's what I'm talking about. See how I go. Be conscious. Om Namah Shivaya, Hara Hara Mahadev. Share the world. Sheshnag.com.